Hello then, welcome to the Nutmeg on Guardian TV. My name is Solomon Fowowe. We had the international break and it was slightly exciting because we had the Super Eagles that were super exciting, but they were a little reckless when they threw away a 2-goal lead against Ukraine. England were also good over the break while the Netherlands too impressed. But club football returns and that's what we're here for. We've got Dennis Erezi with us in the studio. How's it going, Dennis?
Very well, Solomon. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Are you excited to have club football back?
Certainly excited. You know, the excitement in my heart right now, if you could place it in a room, I think it would go over the roof right now.
Okay, that's fantastic. So we have Liverpool against Newcastle starting the Premier League. That's over the weekend, and it's an interesting tie in the sense that you'd expect that Liverpool are going to be steamrolling over Newcastle, but it's a little difficult to say that, understanding that Sadio Mane and Mane-Salah might not be in the best of terms, saying that there was a little spat that was reported that's during the game between Liverpool and Burnley. But Jurgen Klopp has said there's no issue in that. Do you really believe Jurgen Klopp in that?
Yeah, certainly you just need to believe the manager because he's the one that calls the shots in the team. He's the, in quotes, the spokesman for the team. And then if he says there is no panic, there is no reason, you know, to read so many meanings into the spat between Sadio Mane and Mo-Salah, I think we shouldn't overstretch this matter.
So you feel we are making too much out of it?
I think it's a lot of things have been made out of this because it's certainly not the first time. It's not the second time that a spat was being reported between Sadio Mane and Mo-Salah. And I take you back to the start of last season. You know, a similar issue occurred, and then we heard that Sadio Mane is not happy with Mo-Salah because he's not been passing him so many.
Very individualistic.
And then he's been very individual and stuff like that. But then I would also like to draw people's attention to a few stats between these two guys. And if you want to call the bluff of somebody not playing for the team or not assisting as he or she, as he is expected to, I think Sadio Mane is the person that should be blamed in this matter. Not necessarily on the context, but in a general view of the team's performance. Because if you look at their statistics, both players, Mane has assisted lesser for the whole of this season, last season so far. He only had 8 assists. And then you talk about Mo-Salah, who has 12 to 13 assists last season. And this season already, he started counting his assists and none for Sadio Mane already. So for that, if Jurgen Klopp says no matter on this, case closed, I think we should call it a case closed.
I think on the concept of statistics that you introduced into this, you know, there's a saying that stats never lie, but they also don't paint the entire truth. Yeah. Because when you see these two sides play, I think it's important to note that Mo-Salah is not the most open person when it comes to releasing the ball to his mates. Even Motion, when Wenger said something, it was on being spot, and he said that he is a little bit obsessed with scoring goals this time. So I don't think there's any issue when you
in the same way. If you're to toe that line, I will also want you to, you know, see from the other side that every great striker, you know, talk about the likes of Thierry Henry, talk about the likes of Ronaldo de Lima, you know that
there's a thread
there's a thread of, you know, a bit of selfishness in strikers. You know, that's who a striker is. That's who a scorer is.
I think what makes a great striker and a great goal scorer is knowing when to be selfish and when not to be selfish. I think he still needs to hone his particular trade in that. But going to on-field matters between Liverpool and Newcastle, we've seen the, should I call it the rise of Roberto Firmino, his importance in this side. Certainly. In the last game, we saw that he came up goods with them. But against Newcastle, if you're talking about a pesky defense, I think it's this Newcastle side that have really grown in the Premier League this season. You know, the first game, they lost to Norwich City. And we saw the game against Spurs that they also won in that particular one. And they've really grown steadily in this particular side. And Steve Bruce, you could say, he has amassed really a good side defensively. Do you think it's going to cause problems for the front line of the Liverpool side?
First of all things, I think the Liverpool front line has some things to fear in this Newcastle side. Because Newcastle, over time and time again, we've seen that Newcastle is a team that can come at you and defend compact right from the blow of the whistle, you know, to the end of the game. But facing a very creative attack in Liverpool, like you said earlier on, it is still in doubt if we'll have the trio of Mane, Salah, and then Firmino. But if these three guys start, I think Steve Bruce's Newcastle have everything to worry about, because we've also seen that in as much as Newcastle have tried to, you know, be compact and then really present themselves very well in defense, like we saw them do against Spurs that they won 1-0. In the same way, Newcastle's attack at a lot of times can also be very wasteful. We saw that against Arsenal.
Yeah, Jolie, you know, especially.
And then it was not as if Arsenal did some magic in that game. It was not like Arsenal were themselves spectacular, but it just, you know, it just took the recklessness of Newcastle, you know, to throw away that.
All right. Away from that game, probably we're going to the perhaps the most important and most interesting game over the weekend. That's Manchester United against Leicester. That's in the Premier League now. Yeah. We've seen a Manchester United side that has underachieved. Although, I think the question I'm to ask now is, have we been too hard on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's side? Saying that they've won one, they've drawn one, and they've lost one. No, they've drawn two, and they've lost one. Saying that that's their particular statistic, do you think we're being too hard on them, saying we want them just to be competing for... It's a growth process for this side. And there already talks about a crisis, a mini crisis, or whatsoever it's going to be Christian does. Have we been too hard on Solskjaer's side?
I think it's a reflection of so many things, because in the first part of it, if you're saying we're too hard on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, maybe we also look at the statistics, the records, 2 draws, a loss, and then a win, gives room for a whole lot of criticisms like this. And then on the other side, you ask, are we too harsh on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer because he's not really turning out the result? And then if I were in his shoes, maybe I have some arguments to make as regards that, because you look at this Manchester United side and you can't really say this team is equipped. You can't really say this team has enough personnel, to really show up, to really show that Manchester United we need to know, we used to see over the years.
So talking about a side that is equipped and personnel, they're going to be missing Anthony Martial, they're going to be missing Paul Pogba, and they're also going to be missing Luke Shaw in that particular game. Yeah. How do you think it's going to be coping against a side as good as Leicester? Leicester's not lost any game this season.
It's going to be very tough. And then, believe you me, from my own standpoint in this place, I just think it is another match that Manchester United fans will want to forget in a hurry. Because, like you said, Leicester City are in a blistering run of form right now. And Manchester United, if you look at Manchester United have been, their performance this season have been, let me just put it, have been epileptic, a bit they are down, a bit they are up, a bit they are down. And then you don't want to put up this sort of performance against Leicester City. And do not also take nothing away from this Leicester City side, which, they've done very well for themselves. Like they picked up from right where they stopped last season and firing on all cylinders already. And it will also mark the return of reunion between Harry Maguire and his former teammates. So, I'm talking about the Leicester City manager. Brendan Rodgers is a manager that knows Manchester United. He's faced them many times, and he might be likely to put this on.
So the remaining games in the Premier League, that's over the weekend. We have Southampton against Sheffield United, Spurs against Crystal Palace, Wolves against Chelsea, Bournemouth against Everton, and Watford against Arsenal. But probably the biggest game in Europe, it's Barcelona against Valencia. And it's coming in a very delicate time, especially for Valencia, saying that they just lost their manager, Marcelino. Just to talk about the manager.
Lost their manager or sacked their manager,
It feels something that has been inevitable ever since Marcelino walked in that door. Because the sort of structure we have at Valencia has not really supported what Marcelino really wanted to do. And seeing that it was a manager that got them to win the Copa del Rey last season, got them into the Champions League last season, there's been a whole lot of improvements and growth. But Peter Lim, that's the owner of Valencia, has always felt threatened, has always felt that there's not enough glory returning back to him in constructing the side and using it for such enterprise. But away from that, we have Barcelona against Valencia. Now, Valencia in a bad patch. It's saying that they just lost their manager, although they just won their first game against Mallorca. That's over the weekend. That's before the international break. But for Barcelona too, they are not really in a good place. Luis Suarez is going to be returning to this side, but there's still no message. Do you see Barcelona really getting something against Valencia?
Now, I think I need to address a few things about the whole Valencia structure before I go into the match proper itself. Because in the real sense of it, I think sacking the manager right now is the biggest blow that will happen to Valencia this season. And take my word for it, they will end up regretting this. Because for the very first time, I think in about 3 seasons now, this current Valencia side is, you know, I think it's the first time we're really seeing them getting to gel together, you know, having a proper structure, having, you know, a direct vision that appeals to people that have been following the Spanish La Liga for a while. And then, like you said, the coach won you Copa del Rey, and for this season so far, I don't think he's done anything badly, because if you place them side by side with Barcelona,
they have the same form record.
You know, they both lost a game already, they both won already, and they both drew a game already out of, you know, 3 matches played so far. But, you know, coming into the fixture on Saturday, I think in as much as Barcelona is not really in their top of form already, I think Barcelona still has enough arsenal, you know, within their ranks to claim victory over this Valencia side. And it is also not to undermine this Valencia side, but I think the whole change in manager,
the shake-up.
Yeah, the whole shake-up in, I feel there will be shake-up in tactical, you know, in tactical setup too during the match. And do not forget that they've also got a Champions League match against Chelsea during the week. So I think all of this will play into the minds and the whole psychological setup of this game. So I think Barcelona would hedge this one over them.
Clearly, that's your biggest game over the weekend,
yeah,
right?
Certainly.
Thank you so much for coming, Dennis.
Always a pleasure.
So that's it for you on the Nutmeg on Guardian TV. It's been an absolute pleasure presenting this to you. My name is Solomon Fowowe, and do not forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. That's Guardian Nigeria, and also follow us on all our social media platforms. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Nutmeg.